Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Foodyaari, I, Rutvika Banikar, today would like to extend a warm welcome to our guest speaker as well as all the attendees. Today's session is on the topic of pursuing masters abroad in New Zealand, and guest speaker for today is Basil Saju sir. A quick introduction about Foodyaari. Foodyaari is the web-based platform for all food technologists. At Foodyaari, you will get an exciting experience in form of quizzes, articles, latest news updates, and various blogs in food sector. Foodyaari also introduces us to a large community of food professionals, so you can interact and form meaningful conversations with them. Now, introduction of our speaker for today. Basil Saju sir has completed his BTech in food technology from TKM Institute of Technology located in Kerala, India. And then he achieved his master's degree in food innovation from Lincoln University, New Zealand in the year 2020. Currently, he works as quality and compliance officer at Oceana Dairy Limited in New Zealand. I request all the participants to please post their queries in the comment section below, which will be answered later at the end of this session. Sir, should we begin? Am I audible?
Yep, you can start. But before we start, I'd like to thank you guys on behalf of me for having me on your show. This is one of my first times in a webinar, so and whatever I said in this will be my personal opinions, just for whoever is watching. And thank you all who's going to be attending this program. And I hope after the end of the show, you will have some insights of studying into New Zealand universities, and I could be of some help with those things. Yeah, as Rutvika said, please be free to post your own questions and ask your own queries regarding studying in New Zealand. I'll try and answer most. So thank you. And yeah, Rutvika, we can start.
So I would like to ask, a really crucial question to you. How are you and how is New Zealand treating you presently?
Presently, I'm doing well actually. The job has its own stresses, but otherwise, it's pretty good. And post-pandemic situation has been better than the pandemic. Pandemic was a little tough for everyone here, especially if migrant students without families and stuff. But yeah, now it's been improving. Borders have opened and restrictions have been lifted. So yeah, it's going pretty well now. Hope this
Oh,
continues.
glad to hear you're doing well. Now I would like to move to the questions which would help our attendees to make decision about pursuing masters in New Zealand. So first question would be how you decided on the university.
So for me, it's the beginning of this chapter is not deciding on a university. It's first deciding on which country to look at. As you all may know, the common countries are Australia, New Zealand, then UK, Canada. Some even go for European countries. So it starts with that. You can go through an agency, you can make your own choice, but it starts with that because every country has its own economy and each country has its own, say, job preferences. So if you go into come across any immigration sites in New Zealand, you will see that New Zealand might have a shortage for some other jobs. Same might not be applicable for UK. So it's based on what you study and which country suits you first. So that's the thing you have to research first to see if you go into a country like, say, in New Zealand, Canada, will you be successful? Does your career have a growth in there? Because bear in mind, each country has its own population, and their population will have their own expertise in certain things, and they will be having a domination in certain fields. So if you are going into those fields, you will find it tough. There will be a majority of their own citizens, and like in our country as well, we give preference to our own people, right? Same, any country will do, give preferences. And for the some jobs, however, like they have a shortage, they want people. If you are in that category, you will have better chance of succeeding. The same thing I did when I did my research. New Zealand has a shortage of food technologists, and if you go into an immigration website, you can see it is in the long term and short term shortages. That made my decision a little easier, and it gave me an opportunity. If you are shortage, like when you apply for a residency, when you apply later for a work visa in a country, all these factors are helpful to you, gives you additional points if you are in any of these things. First thing to consider is that before you decide on which country you want to go, will you have a scope on that? Then coming to the university part, same like you all, two basic things. One is duration of study, how long you want to study. Then second is the finances. Each and every one of you guys will come from a different background. Some will be rich, some will be poor, some will be from medium class. So there will be a different standards of money you could afford. So first set a benchmark, like how much can you afford? How much will you like to afford? And based on that, you decide a university. I can't get in New Zealand, to be fair, it's not about the university you study. It's more about how good you are as a person. No one, when you go in for a job, never asks, like, say, are you studying in a high ranked university? Why didn't you study in a high ranked university? I know India has that system where if you study in a IIT, you will have a little preference. But New Zealand is not an economy. It depends on your skill. So your university will only get you as far as your, say, first job. From there, it's all your experience that counts. So don't worry about picking the highest ranked university. Pick a university that suits you. Go into what subjects they have for you, which will give you a diverse options. So if your interest is in quality, you should pick a subject from a university that gives you more exposure to that because your career needs that part, not everything else. It's not a banyan tree. You should focus on like a sunflower, like which path you want to go, check the subjects. And obviously, the fair finance and everything comes in. So there are 1 year courses, 1.5 year course, and 2 year course in New Zealand. You can pick either one depending on how long you want to study and your financial things. But either way, whichever you study, it is fine. It is based upon your choice. But then ultimately, in the end, once you start your career, always focus on the fact that whatever course you choose will help you grow from there. That is what it counts.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question would be, what are the exams one needs to appear for getting admission?
The one is your bachelor's exam. If you don't
Yeah,
appear
sure.
in that, you won't get a certificate. Then the other critical thing is an IELTS. I always recommend people to get a higher score in IELTS because when you come to an English speaking country, your English actually counts. How open you communicate with people. And obviously, you would have seen in English movies, like they have a slang. It's not like how we speak. So the more you are good at with your English, like say reading, listening, and writing, you will be better able to focus on classes. It's not so easy when someone who's lacking in English to come and follow everything someone else says, especially if it's not in how your local dialects. So I always ask them to get the highest score, strive for more, because it will help you in communicating with the people there and also in your studies as well. So, and yeah, the minimum score in New Zealand is like 6.5. You need a 6.5 hours to come here, but the more the merrier. I
Okay,
hope
sir.
that kind of class. That's good.
Next question. Do you need coaching for exams you mentioned, or self-study sufficient considering the free materials nowadays available on internet?
That ultimately depends on how good you are as a person. I think by now, each and every one of you guys will know how good you are with your language and your studies and stuff. It doesn't really matter, like, if you take coaching to get extra marks, if you don't take coaching to get marks. Ultimately, the aim is to get the marks. But for people who really want to score high, I do recommend going to some professional sometimes because they will give you some key ideas on how to structure an essay, how to like write an IELTS thing, give you some like structural words like which will help you to score marks. That is always helpful. It might not always depend on how good your language is. It's just that how you structure it, how it is presentable your thing is. So you are welcome to have an extra coaching, which will always be good if you feel like you need it. Some for me personally, I went for like a week of coaching just to know how to do all these things, which helped me a lot actually, just to explain. But you are free with the channels, with the YouTube, and with the free material, as Utrika said. You can study from home. It saves you some money, and you can do it in your own time as well. It always helps. But at the end of the day, it's up to how you schedule. If you are satisfied with the work material which you're provided, you can go by that. you need professional training, you can go for that. But yeah, do take advantage of everything that is in front of you for the ultimate goal. That's all I have to say on that.
Okay. How did you manage finances for your admission?
Obviously, a couple of things. One is education loan, which covered a bulk of my finances. Then for New Zealand, your gold pledges won't help. Quick information to everyone who's planning. So you will need to either show a fixed deposit or some sort of like liquid money which you have saved up. And there are certain rules. I don't know if it changed from my studies. You have to have that money like at least 6 months prior to going. So if you are planning to come to New Zealand and you're planning to pledge money, you should always keep that money 6 months in advance in your account, and you will have to show that. And on top of that, you that money can only be from your close relatives. It can't be from any friends or like distant family, because immigration will check all these things. And if they have a doubt regarding the finance you show, especially with post pandemic, they will always want one assurance is your financial security. So it will delay your visa process. So I advise people to actually check what is the conditions, how long you need the money for and stuff and all if you're planning, because the loan doesn't cover everything. It covers like I think 75%. So please look into that before you put the money in. But otherwise, yeah, these are the three ways I think you have to show money.
Next question would be: do universities in New Zealand provide any type of placement support? If yes, then what is the procedure we have to go through?
Straightforward answers: universities doesn't provide you any placement. You have to look for your own placement. It's different in each country. Like UK provides, but none of the universities in New Zealand provides placement for you. You will have to find your own opportunity. There are a lot of opportunities available. Don't worry about that. But there are a lot of platforms like Seek, say, Trade Me, all these things where you can start like an entry level job and then work your way up. Then there are, if you are looking for some college education, they do provide internships. But one thing in university is like you have research projects which you do, which kind of helps. If you work for a company, that company will take note of you. You can keep a reference saying, okay, I did a project with you, which will help you. But it's not a necessity that you have to do it, which will be helpful. And your professors, advisors, and their references for certain jobs also will get you. But straightforward, there's no direct placement opportunities from a university anywhere.
Okay. Next question is: self-study and assignments are preferred in like foreign universities, unlike India where classes are held. So is it true? Like more, we have to like do self-study and all this by ourselves.
Yeah, it is very true actually. Unlike India, where it's like spoon feeding mostly in foreign university, the higher you go, like say master's level or even a graduate level courses, it's not more about what they teach you. Professors will always be busy with projects, research, and stuff. They will take classes, obviously. They'll be guiding you in what to learn, but it's more about you to choose what you want to learn, how much you want to learn. They have very good libraries, they have very good internet systems. They even have good online portals where you will get a research paper. That is very, each university is very good in that. But it's up to us to find the information. They will only tell you where you can search for the info. So you will have to find the info and learn, which is pretty good actually, in a way, because when you go in, from my experience, when you go into a master's course, for even for an assignment, you will never be given the same topic. Each and every individual will be based on a different thing. So you will have to do your own stuff. They will give you some common guidances like, say, this is how you should do, this is how you should prepare, how you should structure, these are things you should include. But for each individual, it's about scheduling your own time. Go to a professor personally and give your suggestion first, how you want to do it. They will never say like, this is how you should do it. Okay, I gave you a topic to write on, say example ELISA. ELISA, what is the definition of an ELISA? What are the different types of ELISA? Any advancement? No, they won't give you any of that. First question they'll ask you is, have you written down any material? Tell me what you have written. You have to show your material. Then they will analyze based on that. And they will obviously give you guidance. They will tell you like this is wrong, this is not something you should include, but we should give our 50 percentage for them to give their 50 percentage. They will, that's how they assess how good we are. And we obviously have like online platforms from and libraries which we can go for the information, which is pretty good. And as a student, that's why the part that you should have a good IELTS and a good English background helps for communication with the professors and to like collect research material. But obviously, paraphrasing is very important. You have plagiarism thing here as well, so you can't obviously just copy paste word by word and mock up everything just like that. You have to do your own work with that, and it should be your own, presentable in your own way. And obviously, the research part is very good. They'll give you when you have practical sections here, apart from your theory classes, which will guide you, give you an exposure to modern technology, the technology that is used currently in this country. That is very good.
Okay. Next question is, can you please give us some general information on loan procedure, like when to start for like applying for loans or some general documents required?
Before when you apply for any loan, the first part, like, you have to select a country, you have to select a university, and you have to get an offer letter, say a conditional offer letter from a university. Conditional offer letter means you might not have paid fees, you might not have given a couple of things, but you have gotten admission. That is one thing you will require, and you will need to show all your, say, whatever you're pledging. Say if you're pledging your house, you might need to show all the documents related to that, and basic details about you and your parents, those things. And for me, the loan procedure took about, say, a month, but it can vary from a month to 3 months. And it also varies because of the bank you choose. Obviously, public sector banks will take a little longer. Their interest might be less, but they will take a little longer for processing, depending on which bank it is. And private banks are much more fast. They will have interest higher, little higher interest, but they're pretty fast with that. So depends on how long, how much time you have. Like I will obviously recommend you to go through a public bank, so that you will like have a reduced interest and stuff. But sometimes you have to take the private sector option because you need to get the processing done. So and it will ideally it will take like a 3 month period for a processing thing, unless your documents are not like straight. They'll obviously do go through a lawyer check and stuff. All those stuff will take some time if it has some trouble. If you have a straightforward document, it can be getting done in 1 month, but at least minimum you should consider a loan process will take you a month. Bear that in mind and go forward.
Next question is how to do the documentation part. I mean, are there any special requirements for obtaining particular type of document which we require for student loans?
Student loans, obviously, they will ask you for each and every document saying you from your offer letters, your degree certificates, like all the Aadhaar, your PAN card, all the stuff that you have in India, passport. You need a lot of documents. You don't need a special SOP or anything. They will give you a form to fill out, like say a check sheet. You need like say I think there are 10 sets of documents in there, which some are mandatory. You need like say offer letter, like your property pledging documents, your own details. Some of them can be optional, but it really depends on bank to bank, like what they require and what they don't require, and what they deem as necessary for you to get. But obviously, go to a bank will be the best thing, like and ask them what for this loan I need to go abroad for this much amount, what all documents. They'll give you obviously a check sheet. You have to tick them off on that one, and it's basic filling documents. It's not something rocket science, anyone can do. But I do advise you to go to a bank and get a checklist first, because it will take considerable time to get all these things sorted and before giving it to them. And they will again get back to you if you have missing documents or they need additional documents regarding some things which you might have to follow up on. Obviously, there'll be someone in the bank itself who will help you regarding how your application procedure goes through. So that's nothing much to worry about it. You can do it on your own. Yep.
Okay.
Hope that clarifies.
Uh, yes, sir, sure. Is consultancy necessary or people can manage on their own for admission?
Yeah, this is one thing, that same thing I said, 50-50. Obviously, you have to put in your own effort, and with our resources, internet and everything available, everything is in front of us. You can go into university website and see what's the how much is the fees, what all documents they are. Communicate directly to a universities and their application, they'll give you stuff. It's worthwhile to do it on your own because it will give you a like clear cut info. You are only trusting your gut. There's no manipulation, no influence and stuff. But going through a consultancy also is good. Just the fact that you will have to follow up with a lot of consultancies. These consultancies get money from universities for putting students there. And each consultancy has its own preference of university. You might go to one consultancy, they'll recommend you one university, another will recommend you another one. So I will ideally advise you to go to multiple consultancies and have a look what they have to say, gather info. And when one good thing about going to consultancies is that they'll have brochures, booklets directly supplied from universities, and you will get it for free. You don't have to pay any cost just for consultancy. So you can collect all the materials, bring it home, have a look through. Some of them actually are very good. It's not all info on internet. Internet is made in a presentable way, but brochures, those stuff, they're additional things. You won't get those in the internet. Info might be somewhat same, but it's worthwhile to have a look. It will have more like picturesque view for your own thing, which will help you to see how the university is, get a basic understanding where is it located. All those things will add up to your knowledge. So go through multiple universities, do your work. You can do it from then also, you can do it yourself. There's no compulsion that you have to go through a thing. But if you feel one university is right, you can go through an agency that supports it. At the end of the day, there's no harm for you. Some consultancies charge some money from you, some don't. There are a lot of thing consultants that are free, they just take the money from the university. And when you go through a consultancy, you don't have to worry about the process, like sending email to them, communicating with them. That will be done by someone. And obviously, a person from the university will obviously know a counselor in a place. They have done multiple conversations. So for them also, it's like getting a student admitted there. If you have a university in mind, you can go through a consultancy because they will get you admitted because that's their money, that's their profit. They will go to the extent, they will talk for on your behalf and all the other stuff. They will do the background work, which is quite good. You don't have to worry too much. You can just give the documents, someone will scan it in, and work done. So I will recommend you can go through a consultancy, but you should know that each consultancy has preferences. You should know which university you want to go to. Because at the end, they will say it's a great university, it's good for you. You might, because they deal with it. They don't really know which is actually good for you. They have a lot of people, a lot of customers going through. Once you reach a country, you should not feel, what they said is too much. Because at the end of the day, that will be your fault that you didn't do your research properly. So it always helps. You can collect information from every side. That's what I tell you. Get the facts straight, make your decision based on that. Go through a consultancy. It never cost any money at some consultancies. You can just let them do the work, let them get the money. It doesn't go in from your pocket. So it's always good to go through them.
What is the most difficult part in the process of applying abroad, according to you? Like, what do you think?
Um, it's not just one actually. Every process is difficult. From if you guys are graduate students watching this, you will know even picking a university itself has its own challenges. First, that is that you have to get your facts straight. Then loan procedure itself, its own challenge. Getting the documents is not always easy. I had to run a lot to get all my documents for my loan itself. Indian banks, not like biasing or referring to anyone in particular, but some banks might make you run a lot. It's justifiable in some cases because your documents might not be always straight. You might not know that, but from a bank's perspective, they know because they are pledging your thing and they need security. So they will make it 100% foolproof. You might have to run quite a lot for that. That is a second hurdle. Getting admission might not be so bad if you're good marks, good IELTS. You can get admission to any university. It might not be a big challenge, unlike India, because it's not based on too much on marks. You don't have to score 99% to get an admission. So that's relatively simple. But then you have a visa process where you have to go through saying an SOP, saying why you want to come here, what you want to study, what motivates you to come here. So detailed explanation, and they will obviously check all these documents like your wire transferring, fees transfer, the university which you're studying, and say your financial status. All these things will be verified by university, and it can take some time. Like visa process is not something simple. They have a lot of applications to go through. It is time consuming. You will have to sit and wait. That waiting time itself is a mess, especially if it's like getting close to the deadline you're supposed to go. But yeah, all those things. And visa process itself has its own like hurdles for some people, not always. Some get rejected based on that. But in the end of the day, you should also consider the fact that choosing the course that is right for you also plays a role in this, because no country will let someone say study the nursing, study food technology without any proper explanation. They'll ask you for that. Why you pursued your whole career in nursing, you're studying food technology. It's not like they don't want you to study food technology. They will obviously want, they'll from your perspective as well, person studying nursing, why do they want food technology? They might make a bad choice, so they'll ask you why. You have to be justifiable. You could say I did a course, I would like to go in this, part of my studies was related to that. You might have to justify all these things, because at the end of the day they are looking for people who can support their economy, and they will obviously tell people who studied certain courses to follow their own path. So if you have, certain countries will give you a rejection, say if you have already a master's, to study a master's, because now you're double masters, should study something else. That happens to a lot of people. A couple of my friends got rejected based on that, because they think you are overly qualified. Overly qualified on a subject also doesn't get you anywhere. So that is kind of hectic. So your groundwork has to be like solid. It's like building a house. The platform has to be very good for going up. But at the higher stages, they will check all these things. But it's, don't get scared of all these things. But if you're for a food technology student, if they study food technology, going for a master's won't affect. And if all your papers are good, transfers is good, it will be good. And obviously, your university will have a role to play, because I heard when there was a pandemic time and visa process was getting delayed, New Zealand universities offered students to study a semester from home, which was given a written letter to the university, sorry, the immigration, saying that okay, first semester they'll study from India, second semester onwards they'll come, which helps, because if you don't get the visa, you can't come here, but you can still study. Some places do offer that option, some places do not. So that also is one thing you should bear in mind. The time if a university offers you like distance study, which could be good, especially post pandemic where everything is getting a little lagging and everything. So that would be good. And I know New Zealand universities offer that, but you should have to check on other ones. Which ones offer that? Yeah, obviously that's good.
Okay. Next is, was there any preparation strategy? Like, did you start 3 months before, 6 months before for the intake you were planning?
Honestly, it took me like 1 month from finishing my bachelor's to decide I should go abroad. It's not that straightforward for everyone. It's good to plan, but it's not good to plan too much in advance. You certain people, especially in our Indian families, that you want your son to have a good career, so you will tell, okay, going abroad is the best option. Start from first year of your bachelor's. Ritvika, I think your connection problem. I think you guys can hear me, but still. So going from first year of your bachelor's, Ritvika has left us. I think I'll give her a minute to come back before we continue on this.
Sorry, I had some like connection issues. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
So we
raise.
were,
I stopped. I stopped.
so yeah, we are talking about preparation strategy. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're good. No worries. That happens. Yep. So some parents actually, for some, not just parents, even our own decisions like influence us to start way ahead. Say start of bachelor's to decide, 4 years later I'll go to this place. It never helps, because as COVID-19 you will know, You would have decided in first year of bachelor's that after studies I'll go to this country. Post pandemic, 4 years later, a lot of countries would have shut down. Some countries offer. So all those things affect your thing. So there's no good in planning 4 years in advance to a country because 4 years is a long time, and each country's economy changes, their rules change. Because currently New Zealand immigration itself is changing its own rules of like what shortage list is, what is a long term thing, which I don't even know what they will bring up after this. They are currently reviewing. That happens to every country. After a while, they will review what jobs are short, what jobs are less. So some will be added, some will be removed. Same like in India, if everyone goes for bachelor's in engineering or BTech engineering, after a while, 4 years later, we have a lot of BTech students, and we don't want this surplus of BTech students. Same thing happens to a country, any country as well. You have too much students studying a course, then they have a surplus of people for that job. So they will take that out from a shortage list. They say some other thing is short. We want people to fill in this gap. So that is what I said. 4 years advance in planning never helps because changes. You can plan, but be up to date and be prepared for changes. What will happen between a country? But ideally, it's best you have a, like say, start in 1 year in advance or your last year of your studies, because you will know your score, how good you are in studies, and what are the like current expectations. The only thing that grow mostly, unless something major happens, only change will be a fees. Next year, fees will have a like say 5% addition or 10% addition, but most conditions are same. So it's ideally good to have start from 1 year back, get your opinion of your professors, family, like seniors. You can even try and communicate with people abroad. Like say you like to go to this particular university, there will be someone there. You can even some of your seniors would have gone abroad. You can ask them throughout the course of a year, how is it? Do they get a job? This will obviously help you to decide to go or not. If you have some of your seniors gone abroad, you can keep in touch with them for a year. See, their studies were good. They got a job from that. They will obviously have their own feedback, like don't do this, do that. This will be good. So a 1 year gap will give you good enough time to analyze properly. You can even go from like say end of studies like me, but I don't really recommend that because you are hurried, because in within like this you have to make the decision in days. You have to decide a country, go to a consultancy, give it 5 days. Okay, I have to decide and then go through a loan process. All those things will be like very hectic, and if you get closer to a deadline and half of your things are not sorted, you might have even paid fees, because that's a big mistake every student makes. Like towards December, class is starting in Feb, you pay your fees, you send everything, then you give your documents for visa gets delayed, and a university in the end says sorry, you can't come because your visa has not come through. Then you have to ask the fees back. Obviously pay the fees back, but then they'll take some percentage of transaction charge, their own charge, which is in the end loss for you. Then again you will have to sit another 6 months. So plan well in advance, set a time frame for each thing, like say loan takes this much. Best case scenario, give it some time so that you can account for like unexpected things, so that your visa process and everything goes smooth. You don't have struggle. Unexpected like incidents in family also happens financially. Everyone will have things. So you should always account for everything. There are a plethora of things that could affect your application. So plan well in advance, do your research, then go for a university. At the end of the day, it pays. To be fair, to make a good choice, it pays. You won't have any losses, and you will be comfortable mentally as well to leave, because everyone is homesick, including me. If you rush things too much, you will feel, I'm missing my parents. So that will also happen. So you should prepare so that you will have a time for everyone to cool off and make a choice. Enjoy your whatever you have, because once you come here, it will have its own struggles. Living alone, even you will have friends and other sets of family, but being separate has its own thing. So enjoy your time while you're there. And I'll always advise people, don't rush into coming to another country, because once you finish your bachelor's, that sometime you will also need to cool off, get your mind out of everything. be fresh for a new start, new journey. It's always good to have a break. Have a small break, then start. Yeah, I
Okay.
hope that
Okay.
helps
Yeah,
someone.
yeah. Yeah, it helps to like, be what we can say together before making an informed decision. If we like take some time properly decide and like connect with people, it gives you like a feeling that you're already in that group. So it would really help.
Yeah. And I was really homesick, to be fair. I didn't really want to leave that quickly. Everything sort of rushed. So if you have a time, enjoy it. That's my suggestion.
Next would be most students opt for part-time jobs abroad. So are they enough to cover the living expenses? And also, is it possible to manage the studies along with the part-time job?
Yeah, it will cover your living expense. First part is sorted because each country's minimum wage is set so that this much hours you do will cover your living expenses. New Zealand, I think current minimum wage is around 21, 21.50, I think, roughly. So that will cover your, say, get your decent sized room. You don't even have to share a room. You can have your own room. That is pretty good. And you can have good food. You can do some travel, not too much travel, but some travel. That will be good. And you have semester breaks as well, where you can work like full 40 hours, but during part time you'll only 20. But those 40 hours will give you some additional income, which will help like explore. And obviously, then when you come here, you would have immigration would have asked you to show some living expense here. Some people have to transfer that money. So the way how it works is when you transfer your living expense here, the New Zealand bank, which is responsible for you, they'll send a fixed amount. So your living expense is based on the fact that you will need around this much money to cover you for a year. So some people are asked to transfer that money, some people are not. For those who are asked to transfer that money, they will get a monthly, you can set it up monthly, 6 monthly, any way you want, depending on the bank. But ideally, it's better you monthly. So even though if you don't have a part time, that money will come to your account and that will cover you for the month. And for all period of your studies, that money will be coming to you. Because initially, coming to any country, you won't get a part time straight away. You will need some time to, like, say, a month to know people, get to see what part time you can getting applied, getting started. So in those cases, a living expense will help. But most people, they carry some money so that it will cover you for that deficit month. But once you have a part time and you are working, say, 20 hours, that's your maximum part time allowable time, you will get that money. You can even manage with 16 hours of work. It's a little difficult considering all the expenses. You won't have any savings with you, but 20 hours ideally you will have a little bit of savings plus a good enough facility to live here. That's pretty good. To be fair, not all countries have that. You will have a little, and there's no bias here. Everything is transparent. There's no under the table money going. Everything goes to your bank account. They will give you the fixed minimum wage. There are jobs which pays more, but every job pays a minimum wage which will cover your living, and it comes straight to your account, maybe fortnightly or weekly, which will be good.
So next question would be letter of recommendation should be provided by whom? How to make it attractive or like strong?
Letter of recommendation, unlike in India, we don't need a letter of recommendation for getting into university first part. You can't give anyone's recommendation. You can obviously your mark certificates, your whatever score you get in your university thing, your IELTS, they consider based on that. No amount of recommendation is required. Obviously, you might, if there's some discrepancies, your university might have to send a letter saying some things, but other getting to university, you don't need a recommendation. Once you finish graduate a university, it's more about referees than recommendation in New Zealand. So there is, unlike in India where we are right, okay, this person has been so good with this part, he has been with us, I know him so much well, writing a paragraph essay is not required here. It's mostly about your first referee will be your professor. So if you work on a professor, your head of department, these two are your first kinds of references from getting from a university for a job. Some jobs it's maybe as simple as just a phone number and email. They just ask them like, did this person study in this university? Is he good? They'll have a small form or like email transaction and talk. It's as simple as that. Some will have a detailed like online platform which they send like how you order Uber. Same thing. They'll send a pathway where you just have to tick like this person studied this course. How long have you known him? Is he punctual? Is he good? How good as studies? Basic questions like that varies between company to company and confidential information, which I can't really share full details on, but it's quite simple. So you start with as your professors as your referees, and they will be quite willing to give you. You just have to ask them. Like some professors like ask you for a basic CV or kind of CV saying your details, what all you did, how, what course you did with that professor, because you would have did multiple courses, and a professor will be teaching multiple courses as well. So you should know, tell him like which class you belong to, which year you graduate, because it helps is because some people take a break and professors won't keep track of all their students. So if someone calls him, he will immediately go back on his notes and he will say, ah, okay, this person he studied and he will pledge for you. That's how it starts. Then once you get into a work situation, obviously whoever you are reporting to will be your referee. So it can be from a manager to supervisor to your trainer. It varies. So once a job starts, your professor recommendations goes out of the window and your subsequent jobs come in. It's best to give the references from just whatever previous jobs you did relevant to your field. And it can be anyone. You don't ideally have to get from your manager. You can get from whoever you are reporting to based on your position. The only key thing is you have to ask for them first to give you are they happy for you to give a reference for you, because if you don't ask them and you give that will be they won't give anything, and it's very rude here. The polite way, start to say, hey, can I give you as reference for my this job? They say okay, they agreed, that's it, fine. Get some like basic details, maybe a contact number and email would be fine from your job. Attach it with your CV. Obviously when you a recruiter will contact them and ask about your personality more in detail with them, and they'll be okay with it. So yeah, ideally it's how this is how it works.
So do we need letter of like recommendation from professors? Like we have completed our bachelor's from India. So do we need it from them for applying
No,
to the
that
university from
you
India?
won't need any recommendation from Indian professors to apply. Your mark sheet will be sufficient because that is actually a legal document to say that you studied in India more than someone telling. And for people in New Zealand, if you saying, okay, this person is my professor also doesn't make sense. They don't really know that part. So for them, your best document you can provide is your university certificate itself rather than anyone's recommendation, because you can't really prove it. And they will start checking it once you come into New Zealand. Your professor's recommendation matters for getting jobs and even everything else. It helps. But from India, you won't need anything. Your mark sheet is your best recommendation.
Okay, so we will move with the Q&A section. Some of the participants have some questions. So the first question is, kindly explain about scholarship availability, asked by Kavya.
Okay, Kavya, scholarship actually varies from different universities and different courses. So I am not an expert in that. You might have to go into a university website or actually contact a counselor to give you this. But I can tell you some courses are offered a scholarship, maybe ranging from 10,000 to maybe $5,000 or something. That's the range. Like I studied from Lincoln, I got a scholarship of for my marks, and each scholarship has its own criteria. Like say some will be like you have to score say 9 CGPA in your studies. Some will say you have to score like 9 CGPA in your final year of your studies. So all that criteria varies. But yeah, do check online with each university and each course that what scholarship there are scholarships which will help you, but not all courses and not all universities have a scholarship for everything. Bear in mind that. And in India also there are like some scholarships. I think was couple. I don't know the name to it, but If you go to bank itself, when you apply for a public sector bank, they will tell you like this scholarship is there. It might be based on your caste. It might be based on if you're a backward community. Some will based on your income. Some will be based on your locality. Some will based on your marks. So there are like some criteria for that. India itself gives a scholarship which you can apply online, and you can get that also. And you can even apply for a scholarship in New Zealand, but that is more detailed described in your university website than me, because as I said, it's been quite a while since I graduated. What has changed? And I can tell you honestly, Lincoln has a scholarship, to be fair, since I came, but I don't really know about if other university has for their courses, because it's been quite a while. But do go in there and check. There will be some which will obviously help you financially to reduce. It's a good suggestion actually to people, like when you choose a university, it always helps if you have a scholarship. Check online and get a university that gives you a scholarship, because it reduces the loan amount, and it's quite significant amount when you consider it into our currency. Yeah, good question.
Thank you for answering. The next question is from Kavya again. How strong that our profile must be to get selected by the university?
Yeah, it's based on like when you go into university itself, they will say like you need this much marks to first of all get a scholarship and even get admitted as well. You need to pass within this much year. All those criteria are set by the university. You don't have to go above and beyond. You just have to satisfy it. So if the a university says you need to 50% marks in your bachelor's, 51 percentage will still get you an admission. You don't have to score 80 percentage and say, okay, it's good if you score. I don't recommend getting below first star marks. Okay, I told this much marks are only enough, so don't get below. It's always good to have the highest marks, but for weak students or backbenchers, I can say university says 50, 51 will be good, because it's always good to have higher marks, because you never know how many students apply. When a lot of students apply, like same like in our country, they'll follow the mark system. The higher you mark they have, they'll get you. It's not like 99 percentage, so it's always safe around the 70, 80 zone. If you ideally ask for a preference, that you will get selected for a university, and you don't need to show any additional certificates. If you do extra courses, say HACCP training, food safety for food related thing, it will be good, but it's not mandatory, because you can do it from here as well, and they have more validity if you do it from here than in our country. But it's always additional info which helps, and obviously you need a good IELTS score. That also is a big consideration when universities see your profile. You are good in English, your communication is good. That is a big thing. So that's why I advise everyone to get good marks in IELTS as well. You don't need overly expect like 8 out of 9 is not too good, but you could get a 7, itself they'll be happy. Like it gives them confidence in you as a person to follow their classes. So bear in mind with those things. And so, yeah, but other than that, you don't need to make any like overly fancy or anything. Your profile will be good enough to select it to a university here in New Zealand.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question is from Gunjan Sharma. She is asking, can you please list the best university for MTech in food technology?
Like, as I said, like it's not the university that counts; it's you. Name a few. Otago is the highest rated. Otago is there. Auckland University is there. They are like the best universities here. But you necessarily don't need to study in that, because the higher the university ranking, the higher the fees. It's not necessarily the higher the fees or higher the university rankings, the best education you get. Education will be good in any university you go, because it's self-study. It's how much effort you put in more than how much effort the university put in. So any university go, it is fine. You can choose even the lowest ranked university and get admission. At the end of the day, it's if you graduated. That's the only question most recruiters ask. Did you graduate from a university? Do you have a certificate? That'll be satisfied. It's good if you study in the best university, get best exposure. Good. It will always help, but it's not a necessity. You can still study. But if you ask me to name a few, Auckland and Otago are like the best ones, just study. But do look in both universities, because not all MSc programs are international for international students. Some universities have PG programs only for international students, and some have masters. And the duration of your course also is gets affected. As 2 years might be there, but 1.5 years might be there, but then 1.5 might not be for international students have to take 2 year courses. So all these things come into play. So bear in mind all these things while making a choice. But Auckland University is, I think, one of the best universities you can go here, but it's not a necessity. Let's get away with it.
Okay. Next question is best coaching for IELTS asked by Aishwarya.
Best coaching, you mean like best coaching center to go to, or
Yeah,
like
like
in coaching
classes. Yeah.
material?
Yeah, classes or I think material.
So I can't answer that because each area has its own like best university that is up for you to actually send, which is best, which is not that word of mouth will be plenty of thing to ask about which coaching center is good. But if your English is pretty good, I don't know, I can't gauge everyone's, but if your English is pretty good, even if you don't take coaching, it's very effective. You can still pass. The IELTS at the end of the day is just a test to see if your English you can communicate in English. It's not a thing that defines your future. You don't need IELTS 9 to define you know food technology and you can study and you can speak English. You might say, oh, my English is good, which will be good enough to get you a 7, which will be good enough to get you a university in New Zealand. So at the end of the day, just consider the fact that it's about how good your language is on you. Because obviously, if your language is not so good, it's best that you go for the best IELTS coaching. You might have to extend it for a quite a period to improve that. But if your English is good and you feel you're confident with it, just go for the good normal size coaching or even online material you can practice with that, because I know there are a lot of online materials you can just plug in an earphone, time it and write it and see how good you are, gauge yourself how good you are and go through with that. But it's always good to pick the best one, but it's not a necessity, and it varies according to region, like which I can't give you an opinion really on that.
Okay. So with these questions, we come to an end to Q&A section. If participants have any more questions, please mail them to info@foodyaari.com. I have shared the mail ID in the comment section below. And also, please check the comment section for more useful link posted, which would help you make an informed decision. So I think, yeah, we are done with the questions. So I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to our speaker for today's webinar and also to all the attendees. I once again request the attendees to check the links posted in comment section so that they would help make them an informed decision. So thank you, sir, for taking out the time and helping us guide through this abroad journey. I also thank you all the participants.
Yeah, thanks for Diary for everything, and like to thank all the participants who came as well towards this. I hope I was helped you in somewhat a little way at least to make your choice of studies. As I said, it's my info is just a small portion of your info, but hope do consider that if you're considering to come to studies here. And as Rutvika said, there are a lot of questions you might think of. If Ritvika tries to forward it to me, I can answer some of them. Like I won't get back to you immediately with everything, but I hope I will try and ask some of them some later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.